Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video we are looking at some of the paint schemes for the Blade Guard models in the upcoming Indomitus box set for Warhammer 40k 9th edition. These images were shown off on one of the latest Twitch streams over on Warhammer TV, and we've grabbed a whole bunch of the stills so we can have a quick look and see how some of the other chapters, particularly the founding chapters, or founding legions, will look like, all decked out in their resplendent colors with sigils and purity seals and all that stuff. First up we have the poster boys for Warhammer 40k Space Marines, and that is the Ultramarines. So apparently this is a first company Space Marine, which would be traditionally decked out in Terminator armor, but they've been moved around into this new, I don't even know what the name of this is. We know it's a Blade Guard model, I'm just not sure what the pattern of armor it is. We could call it Indomitus armor. I'm assuming it has been referred to somewhere, but I'm not 100% sure. So it's decked out in traditional blue and gold trim with a white helmet. Nothing too spectacularly special there, but we do get a good look at the shield. So these models do have an imposing stance. Looks like this guy is about to charge forward and slice some heretic's head off. And I'm not sure on the base size, it looks like it could be 60 mil. I'm not sure, I don't have any bases near me to double check. With this particular model though, we do get a very good front-on shot of the shield. There's a lot of detail on there. As far as I'm aware, it is a clean shield on the sprue, so there's no scratches or dints or marks or bullet holes or anything. All the marks and wear and tear that you see is actually painted on. I do love, as we're going to see, a lot more wear and tear. To be honest, there's not a lot going on with the model in terms of detail. There are little bits and pieces, which is nice, but we do get that shield that we can add some iconography to. But I feel that as we are crusading, we're looking at the crusading aspect of the Adeptus Astartes, that you could go a bit crazy with it. This is like a whole new world with the Primaris Space Marines and a whole bunch of new units. So there's a lot of interesting things that you are going to be able to do. Next up, we have the Imperial Fists from the 5th Company. And I've always liked the 5th Company design. Well, if the trim color is black. I've never really liked the red or some of the white or the other color. It seems to me the black works a lot better with the Imperial Fist yellow. And then we haven't gone as far as making the tabard a black color, and that really makes it stand out. It looks a lot more serious because the yellow is very bright, and they have moved to more of a brown yellow compared to the 90s. And on this shield, you can see that sort of made it almost marble. And like I said previously, there's no actual detail on the model itself. That's all drawn in, and I actually really do like that. It looks like some kind of ceramite that has cracked over time. And again, we have the Volkite pistol, which is a huge gun, and it just seems to add this weird bit of extra detail to it. I know I previously just said that there's not that much detail. What I mean is there's not detail as in stuff that you have to add. So on the armpit protector shield, that's usually where a lot of the iconography goes, but like I said, you can chuck it everywhere. But yeah, I do like the Imperial Fist black lining. I think that really suits it as well. So on to the next one, we have Blood Angels. So they're going the red and gold, and in the stream they purposely didn't add a lot of texture detail to it, so scratches and cuts and marks and things like that. They wanted to keep it really clean, just so you can get an idea if you just throw some paint on it with some edging what you can achieve, and it looks really good. Again, I have to reiterate that even though there's not much detail on the model itself, you can add detail, and that's something I really do like. So with the tabard you can do things like that, and as we go through we'll see some other chapters and different models that really push the tabard with different designs on it. And here we have the Dark Angels Deathwing Blade Guard, which has raised a few eyebrows because Deathwing are usually associated with Terminator armor and not anything else. But there's nothing to say that it has to be Terminator armor. On the stream they were talking about, if you go back through the history, like 20-30 years ago, there were Space Marines in normal power armor, part of the Deathwing. The chaplains of the 1st Company Deathwing are in power armor. So it does give you a lot of ideas that the Deathwing itself can be not what you typically associate with. And yes, you have the whole lore aspect too of them being very hesitant to accept Primaris Space Marines, particularly because of their, let's say, not so non-heretical past. We put it that way. But again, this is probably one of my favorite models, particularly from the paint scheme. We see this one is really beat up more, and it gives you a sense of that. There's a lot of big armor panels on here that, even though empty, you can add in your own detail. So I really do love that, particularly on the legs and on the shield itself. You can see like this is really, really beat up. So I'm excited to get my hands on these, and this particular model makes me want to paint this color scheme. This really rich, creamy, almost yellowy cream color to a white color with that very dark, deep green. It really makes me want to start collecting Dark Angels. And I was a fan of Dark Angels back in the day. And by the day, I mean the 90s. Particularly because they had this first company, the Deathwing Company, and the Ravenwing Company, completely different colors to the rest of the army. There wasn't really an army that did that. Space Marines, no. I mean, Blood Angels had the Death Company, which was really interesting. I still love that concept. I'd love to see some Death Company ones of these Blade Guard models. I think that'd be really cool. But it's just a really solid color scheme. Then we get into the Iron Hands, which is a black color. Honestly, I'm not that big on the Iron Hands, and I really don't know that much of their lore. I do know they're closely tied to the Adeptus Mechanicus and Forge World, so I don't know, maybe it's something that I'll look into. But it's never really jumped out at me. I think what you could do with these models, though, because they do come from that Forge World Mechanicus background, you could add some extra little bits of paneling on there, break up the panels by cutting into them. So you could do some really interesting things with that. There's two aspects of this model that I really do love when it comes to the paint job. The first is the power surging electricity on the blade. I love that detail there. It's not too much. It's not too little. It's just like, yeah, there's actually a lot of power in here. And the other one is the color on the shield itself, this white and silver. That color works really well, and you could really do a nice color scheme for the entire armor with that. And of course, you do have the tabard again, like I mentioned before, how you can use that as a canvas to add a whole bunch of detail in. Now we have the salamanders. The salamanders are pretty cool. The green is a bit brighter than the Dark Angels green. I love the very dark, almost black Dark Angels green from the Horus Heresy. And if I did paint a Dark Angels army, I would paint it that color. But the standouts for these ones are obviously the sword and the shield. It's really brightly colored, and you get that contrasting accent of yellows and reds. I think you could paint it up in that gradient, and then I think you could sponge on some brown and dark colors. Get a small fine tip brush, do that, dry brush the tip, and then highlight with some silver. And then you have this almost lava look in the shield itself, and I think that's done by just doing a very, very heavy wash or just very watered down paint with a lot on your brush. I could be wrong, I'm not really a painter, so that design looks really pretty cool. Now we have the Raven Guard. Again, we have the black color scheme with the Raven Guard, but it is seems slightly different to the Iron Hands. They've sort of changed it up from having a black tabard to a white tabard, and then the shield is red, so they stand out a little bit more. And the red ties into the trimming on the other shoulder pad, which, as far as I'm aware, has to do with their company. But again, a fairly simple paint scheme, but with that shield, you do get this big pop of color where you can do some cool, interesting things. So I really do like that. And then we have the white scars. So we have another white armor. Well, the Deathwing Dark Angels one was a cream color, and this one is a white one. Again, pretty simple. I think with white scars, you should always go with fast attack. That's just what they're good at. Whole bunch of bikes and land speeders, but you could have these guys. Then we have the Space Wolves. I think with the Space Wolves, and particularly with any of the Blade Guard, you really can go all out and customize them and really get them integrated into the chapter itself. So for the Raven Guard, which is what I actually wanted to say about the Raven Guard one, was you could take pieces from the Corvus Cabal set from Warcry, because they have a whole bunch of feathers and raven skulls, and you can put them all over and adorn them. And the same with the Space Wolves. You can get some pelts, some of the big ragged heads from the other Space Wolves set, and really set them apart. Really make them like the elite unit of your army. And they have done a little bit here, like you have the kind of a Celtic design on the tabard and some runes on the purity seals, but you could go a bit further and start adding some extra things. If you wanted to go full out on one of the captains of the Blade Guard or a company captain, you could start putting those Celtic designs and runes on the armor itself, really make that really patterned. And at the moment I'm thinking of the Light of Eltharion. The armor itself is very ornate. And if you wanted to go that far, you could sort of cut out the design on these armor panels. So you could do some really cool things there. And finally, of course, as we're crusading, we have to have the Black Templars. That's the epitome of crusading Space Marines. The design just fits Black Templars, although I would customize this a bit more with some chains and some extra skulls, more purity seals, candles, and things like that. You could wrap some chain around the shield itself, like they're holding onto the shield, but it's chained to them. The same with the sword, as you see in a few of the other Black Templar models. And it just makes sense. Just suits their whole crusading style that they charge into combat. So I was trying to figure out which one of these is my favorite. Obviously, I think that my favorite is the Dark Angel one. Simply because it just goes, oh, you can do some really cool stuff with Dark Angels and the Deathwing. But at the same time, I don't know what army I'm going to paint my models up in. I still have a lot of Intercessors and some other models sitting around. I don't know. So let me know in the comments below what one of yours is your favorite one and what color scheme are you going to go for. If there's not one on this list, let me know. If you've got your own custom scheme, let me know the colors below. I'm interested to find out how people are going to paint these, because there's just so much you can do with them. I just feel like every time I look at these models, and now we're seeing all these 10 different versions, I get more and more ideas. So I think it's pretty obvious that I am excited for these models since I'm making a video completely on them. I am a little disappointed you only get 3 in the Indomitus box set because I want a whole lot more, but that's fine. I'll pick up some more eventually. So that's the end of this video. If you have enjoyed this and you do like this kind of content, definitely subscribe, because I have a couple of videos coming out every week at the moment, particularly around 40k and a whole bunch of other things like Age of Sigmar and some few Dungeons and Dragons videos too. So until next time, thanks for watching and I'll see you later.